Wow. Thank you. Thank you for coming. This is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to launch right into PBA, but before I do that, one sort of extemporaneous piece of business I think needs to happen today. It doesn't always work like this in a person's life, but I think we need to do it. Today happens to be the birthday of one Vice President Cameron Martin. Where's Cameron? Cameron's in the back there, doing what he does best, serving, working, doing. Cameron, it's got to happen. You've been born and raised on this campus. We're going to sing to you right now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cameron. Happy birthday to you. I've now lived out my dream of singing in front of thousands, so thank you for that, Cam. Okay, well, if technology will work for us here, let's get right into the immediate business of the day, talking about our PBA cycle. So again, we repeat this every time as we learn anew each year about the cycle, and it starts with planning for next year that will start in a couple of weeks and goes through campus conversations and prioritization and public conversations, and then that takes us into the legislative session, which we just completed a couple of months ago. And coming out of that, we're able to make final allocation decisions, and these get announced today, and then the cycle starts all over again. I want to, again, as always, thank Linda Macon and her team for the extraordinary job that they do. This is something that is repeatedly recognized around the country as one of the most involved, collaborative, open budgeting processes that you see in higher education today. So I'm grateful for that. I'll start with a note on compensation. You should have received an email from me earlier this week noting the following, that coming out of the legislature, we got a 2.5% general salary increase. We need to stress the general nature. That doesn't mean we all individually get 2.5%, but by the end of the day, each category, faculty, staff, administrators, will get a 2.5% average. There's been a lot of work done on this. And it's detailed in the document that's listed there at the URL. So please, we don't have time today to go into the details of that as we usually do, but it reflects, again, a commitment to getting some money to, some amount of money to all of you, but then market adjustments as things change within our disciplines, and merit pay has been worked out on the staff side and the faculty side, and I think that is all pretty self-explanatory moving forward. Coming out of the legislative session, we had one of our lowest first-year tuition increases in a long, long time, and we were one of the few schools that didn't do a second-tier tuition increase, making us one of the leaders, if not the leader in the state, for controlling tuition the last few years running to serve our students well. But it's enough to do the things that we need to do. On the capital facilities side, we pushed very hard for a building, even though we were told up front there was no chance. Originally, I was told I wouldn't even be able to present and ask for a building. We at least were able to kind of wiggle our way in there, if you will, and make the argument that this is such a need that we need to start planning. We were given permission to do so, using our own monies to do so, and so that is beginning now. And that's a terrific thing because it takes a full year to plan anyway, and it puts us in a very strong stead next year for the business building, which is what we're talking about. We had a little shortfall for the terrific pedestrian bridge that will link us to Front Runner and Bus Rapid Transit and transform that west side of campus and our connection to the West Campus, and that got funded this year. And it wasn't a request of ours, but we were very enthusiastic in supporting a $4 million for a new Front Runner stop at Vineyard, so that again we can start to use that property more aggressively moving forward. So that was a significant step forward for us. In terms of our funding, you can see this summarized here. It was actually a very good year in the legislature. I want to underscore that. I'll open with that theme and I'll close with that theme today, that under student growth and capacity, we got over $2.5 million. That was after compensation, our number one priority. I was grateful to be joined by my colleagues in the Council of Presidents to forge an agreement that we would say that that was our top priority, even when not all schools were growing this year. And so that's a big help to us. We get a good chunk of that money in that category. Under completion, we qualified for about $600,000 there. With respect to the workforce development, almost $1 million there. Performance-based, some funding coming through there, and then a strategic workforce initiative, about $250,000. When you start to add all that up with the other sources of income that we have, if you will, dedicated credits, which come from tuition fees and other funds, the way we've reallocated some resources, we're always looking, we're together looking at ways that we can repurpose things, stop doing some things so we can start doing new things. When you combine that with the one-time monies, you see the summary there, that between ongoing and one-time monies, there was $31 million this year to allocate. And again, with the exception of the year where we got the equity money in the acute equity phase, this has been our very best legislative year yet. So let's talk about where we've gone with this. And again, this will be a little briefer overview than is normal, and you can go to our PBA website to get fuller detail if you don't catch everything I'm saying here on the spot or want to probe more down to more levels of specificity about what we've accomplished. In addition to our core themes, which are our perennial guides for our budget, of being serious, inclusive, engaged, all of it focused on student success. We had those following areas of focus. Again, not that anything close to all the money had to go in those areas, but those were things that we collectively had agreed upon would be areas that we really wanted to make extra investments this year if we could. And so with that, we'll start with the core of the core, student success. And we want to improve access to full-time faculty, nearly $2.5 million of ongoing monies there, to 11 tenure track, 6 professionals in residence, 9 lecturers in the following areas that you can see. We also have a terrific need to reduce the student-to-advisor ratio, and so 4 academic advisors have been approved in that category. We need to improve and continue to work on. We do a good job, but we can do an even better job of onboarding our students and moving them all the way through graduation to success. So we have 3 staff members that we're hiring in these, from a pathways outreach to a concurrent enrollment advisor, residency coordinators. You know the attention that we've had in this state on mental health. It's an issue statewide, nationwide. Our students have taken up the cause, and I'm very pleased to report that in response to that and what had been already very strong commitment to that, we'll be adding 3 staff members to help in those areas. We want to enhance our instructional academic support services, and so nearly $500,000 ongoing there, and some one-time monies to help with lab managers and support in a number of those critical areas. We also want to continue to beef up our support for student life and athletics programs, some camp staff and trainers, keep our students healthy and productive moving forward there. As we shift to some of our other core themes and areas of focus, again, a concrete commitment to our inclusive outreach and initiatives. So we'll be hiring a staff person to help with our Pacific Islander initiative. We really are becoming, if you will, a sort of a destination spot for that population here, adding to the things that we're already doing with our Latino initiative, African American completion efforts, our Native American Governors Summit, etc., first generation scholarships. So many great things happening in there. We had our Champions of Inclusion luncheon yesterday. So grateful for the work of the Inclusion Committee and how the campus is embracing this. We need more help to expand our training and education in these areas, especially in places like Title IX and greater inclusivity in our academic programming, and also in the field of athletics. We are also, as part of inclusive, again, it's not just a cultural thing, it's an academic thing. Are we expanding outreach programs that will reach students where they are? Very excited about our foray now into some professional health programs, so a pathway for our students from MTech to come here into nursing, and some very exciting news about a new program. It's always something we've wanted to do but been very expensive, but we were able to bring together some outside resources as well as internal resources to start a new physician's assistant program. Thank you. It is very exciting news. We're overdue for this in the community, and I applaud our folks internally and our supporters externally who've worked with us together to make that happen. We need to reach students where they are physically, and so support for Wasatch campus, our English as a second language staff, directors for CT and extended education, administrative assistant for our K-16 Alliance, support out at Thanksgiving Point. All those will give more robust abilities for those greater destinations of physical outreach. As we move into this serious theme, major investment in graduate school education. 7 tenure-track faculty members across all the different programs you see listed there. We want to always work relentlessly on improving our teaching and the quality of our in-class experience, and we want to put some effort into giving our faculty and staff resources to do that with those learning support program and service investments. Our honors program is just a fantastic program, something near and dear to my heart. We're investing there with some additional tuition waivers so that we can recruit more students. Kate McPherson's done a great job expanding that program for us, and this will be important support there. Again, we've talked about compensation, so I won't go into that except to say that in the spirit of being serious, one of our objectives, if you will, is that to do that we have to attract and retain high qualified folks, both faculty, staff, and administrators, as well as support our best students. So you see that with the honors investment, but the move on compensation does reflect the extraordinary work that's happened to advance merit pay projects both for faculty and staff. So please do take some time to review that. We are going to enhance our support for communications. Again, part of being a serious university is looking like a serious university in the professionalism of our communications and how we present ourselves to the community. And there are some very critical needs there on the staff side that will help us move forward the image of the university in that way. On the Engage front, significant investment here for the School of the Arts. As you know, that building is on its way to being done. One of the great laments of my life is I won't be here for that ribbon cutting, but that'll happen sometime after January of next year. But there's just a great need to staff that, not just with the standard things that go with staffing a building, but the programming that will be involved with that to put on the shows and the programs and the community engagement events are all really critical. And so it's going to be a tremendous draw for the community, bringing them onto our campus. People who've never been here before will come, and I just promise you will be dazzled by what they will see in the building itself, but more importantly, what will be done in the building. We need to continue to expand our engaged learning opportunities. We push this all the time, but often that requires some money and some support to get our students doing things out in the community, get the community coming onto our campus, supporting our faculty in their ways that they make their learning more applied and practical there. And again, in terms of a new expansion, very exciting news with what we're doing with engineering. We got approval for those degrees. When I first came here, that was one of the things I was told over and over again. UVU will never have engineering. But we needed engineering. The community needs engineering, and I'm grateful to our dean who's come forward with a very creative plan for this. We need to put those resources into it to make that happen. We also need to continually work with our workforce development folks in the community about what their needs are and how we respond to that. So there's some monies there, as well as to our community outreach and economic development program, where some staffing will really make us much more responsive to that, which is one of the aching needs in our frankly, our country today, and where so many universities are stumbling. I think we're showing the way, leading the way in terms of listening, responding in a way that's responsible, academically rigorous, but flexible and engaged in all the ways that we mean that term. In terms of operating effectively and ethically, we've got an additional staff member for risk management, some hourly resources and funding for external fees and investigations. And we need some additional support to many ongoing programs and services there, ranging from HR specialists to police dispatch, web developers, etc. These people all play a vital role. Many of us don't often see them in our day-to-day lives, but you would feel it if they weren't there doing what they do in a highly professional way. Operations and maintenance for new facilities. Again, besides the arts building, we've got a new warehouse. We've got things associated with the remodel of what's happening up near the Norda Performing Arts Center. We've got the Hall of Flags addition. Again, we're just growing and expanding. We've been able to do this, I think, in a remarkably efficient way, but we do have to have expanded resources for that moving forward. And then facilities enhancements, remodel, and maintenance. That's just a very expensive proposition for us in terms of the size of our footprint and what we've got going. But you can see it's everything from lab equipment to the Lockhart Arena to furniture for the new HR additions. All of that is in that large but only one-time investment. And we're innovating always on our technology system. You know the way the world is moving with technology, so a new staff person for business process specialist, some additional software investments for transcript evaluation, and course leaf catalog. And then the infrastructure in an ongoing way, we've got needs for 2 more staff in systems administration area, desktop support for academics, and a number of other programs. Again, I'm moving quickly here. You can see those and look at those in more detail on the website if you like to. Finally, we had to do a budget stabilization on a few things in order to make sure that we had the right things funded in the right categories with the right stream of funding. And this puts us on a much more stable basis with our funding going forward in each of the areas listed there. And then we also, as we grow, we have to be flexible in the way that we either increase or reduce sections of support to meet enrollment demand. And then finally, sometimes you have to spend money to make money, so some modest investment in our development operation, which is giving us an enormous return on investment for the monies that they bring in. So those are our decisions. Again, in summary, that's about $31 million that we've spent this year across appropriated and non-appropriated funds. Now, what I want to say as I wrap up at least this portion of today's events is I hope we all appreciate the significance of what this is and what that represents. You may be sitting there and feeling like, well, the thing I wanted didn't get funded, and I get that. We all get that. There are a lot of needs on this campus. I wish we could do everything that we wanted to and needed to. But the fact that we had $31 million this year to distribute in the current environment in which we live in higher education today is nothing less than extraordinary. Here is distribution of funds. The other thing I love about this is that this shows, contrary to where we were 5 or 6 years ago, the state is shouldering the majority of the budget. We have not put it on the backs of the students. So I applaud our legislators who have stepped up to fund this year. I applaud our team for working together to control costs so that we don't have to pass it on to students. But this is the setting. This is just, in the last few weeks, headlines from around the nation about buildings being stopped mid-building, if you will, in Iowa. Cuts in Montana, budget cuts in Missouri, more budget cuts looming in North Dakota. UMass looking at closing academic centers. Again, just a few more. A mock funeral, you can't really see the picture, a mock funeral held in Kentucky for the death of higher education. Illinois is starving state colleges. Nebraska cuts ahead. And look at that chart in the upper right-hand corner about the states right in our own region. You know, North Dakota, Idaho, and then our immediate neighbor to the south, Arizona, cutting budgets by 50% or more. Cutting budgets, letting people go, stopping programs, unwinding stuff. And we just infused $31 million into Utah Valley University. And we've been doing it basically every year. We've been growing. We've been enhancing our budget. And again, I pay credit to the legislature that a few years ago saw the crying inequity of the funding in the system and gave us an infusion, a very large infusion of budget support. And that this year, when there was some money in the system, that they made good on it and said, we will put it into education. And this is what has happened to our appropriated funding since I started here in 2009, starting at about $125 million, and now we're up to $250 million. That's, you know, we're talking 100% increase of funding from the budget. And when you couple that with the support of the private sector and our community, here's what's happened in our endowment. When I first came in 2009, $35 million, now at $98 million. The community is stepping. Thank you. And so, just in a kind of a shotgun-like way, think about what this means in practical terms for all of us. We've been able to double our footprint, taking our existing campus property here and doubling it with a vineyard, but then also expanding with a building at Thanksgiving Point, and we're on the cusp of having land purchased in Payson. On those properties, more than a dozen, or at least a dozen new structures that have become our offices and our fields and our places of exploration. As we build from the buildings, though, what matters is what happens in those buildings. And first and foremost, it's our academic programming and what's happened to our master's degrees, going from 2 to 8, and our graduate certificates, and increase in bachelor's degrees. We haven't increased in associate's degrees, but the important thing is here, we haven't lost that many. We've actually lost a few, and we've added some. I think a lot of people thought they would go away entirely. We're retaining them and holding on to them, and then significant increases in certificates and diplomas. Athletics. When we started this in 2009, we were part of the Great West Conference. The Great West Conference, filled with Western powerhouses like the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Okay. We are now in the WAC and the Big 12 and talking about NCAA tournament time with real legitimacy that we could be there and will be there, I predict. Our inclusion initiatives that we've talked about, going from sort of a Latino initiative and a little bit of money to do some symbolic things around campus to major initiatives for first generation, LGBTQ, African American completion initiatives, Pacific Islander, a robust committee with 36 action steps. That's moving forward. The engaged learning efforts of doing projects in places like Israel and Oxford, and service learning in opportunities and internships in New York and Washington and all over the state dramatically increased as a result of these funds invested. And then to conclude, most importantly, the people, all of you. We've been able to hire you, retain you, train you on our faculty side, our staff side, because you're the ones that have made the difference. You're the ones that carry out these programs. You're the ones that get the community excited. You're the ones that change our students' lives. It's been a roughly 40% increase on both the staff side and the faculty side. And then, of course, it's the great purpose for which we do everything here. It's the students that we've taken on 10,000 more students. That's the size of most institutions of higher learning, and we've just added it here in the last 9 years. And I'll conclude with this picture. I love this picture. We're on the cusp of graduation. This year we're going to graduate more students than we ever have in the history of this institution. But I love this picture because even though we start to count our graduates in the thousands, we can't forget the one. There's a story behind each one of those thousands. I don't even know who that young man is waving, but it just captures for me the excitement, the thrill, the accomplishment of graduation and student success. That's what the money is about. That's what the funding is about. That's what the decisions are about, is making that dream a reality for thousands and thousands of students that makes all the difference in the world on the individual basis. Congratulations for another outstanding year. You've made it happen. You are the one that makes this community want to invest in. I couldn't be prouder of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. It is remarkable to watch as President, along with Cam, Steve Anderson, and the team work through, Linda, others. It takes a village and then some to support a legislative session out of this university. What a successful year. We're so grateful for all the efforts of everyone involved. We especially are grateful for Val and Jefferson Moss, who sacrificed time away from family and serving in the legislature, and we appreciate that. Please join me in one more round of applause, thanking President Holland and all of them for a wonderful year. Now for the fun stuff. We'd invite President and Mrs. Holland to please join me on the stage, if you will. We've brought up some comfy chairs. We're grateful to have all of you here again and appreciate your time. I'll introduce our MC, and then after that, I turn time over to the MC and we hear a little reflection on the time that President and Page have had here with us. We'll then leave the remainder of the meeting for President Holland to give us his farewell address. We looked far and wide for someone that could really help kind of curate a message of farewell from all of us, to be our voice to President and Page and all the things they've done. And as we searched far and wide, we could look no further than outside my office at Candace Gardner, his executive assistant. So we'd invite her to please come forward as our MC. There are rare moments in a day, very rare, that Candace gets to leave her desk. And we didn't ask permission this time. We just invited her to do this. It's outside of her comfort zone, but we all love her anyway. She also has an amazingly unique perspective on what the last 8 to 9 years has been like. I'll turn the time over to Candace Gardner.
Sorry your expectations were so raised, just me, but I am actually really excited for this opportunity to talk about President Matthew Holland, my boss for the last 8 years. And as I prepared for today, I realized there were so many things I wanted to say, but I was afraid that I might forget some in the moment. So I decided to put my thoughts down in a letter to him, and I'd like to share that with you today. Dear President Holland, You have always been a teacher at heart, and I have watched and learned so much from you over the years. So many great lessons will remain with us after you go that it's hard to decide where to begin. There are so many things to thank you for. Thank you for your presidential appearance at all times. Your professionalism has been unmatched. Thank you for always being engaged, keeping your game face on even when others were boring you to death. You faked it well. Thank you for not being distracted by slightly melodramatic employees, at least until they let you in on the joke. Thank you for being such a passionate public speaker and for letting us know when we needed to laugh at your jokes. Thank you for being so articulate in every situation.
Somehow I need that, and he's good at it to get me going. Otherwise I look like a dead fish on screen, so I'll put on beads if you want. So. Should have worn a green tie for this. Congratulations, Jordan High School graduates, on reaching this important milestone in your life. How cheesy did that look? At Utah Valley University, we have just a couple of, actually we called it the Project for Creativity. That was pretty good, but. So the idea came to us, what about a okay, that's my problem. So the idea came to us, what about an, download Duo today and lock your download login doc down. Which is why we protect online accounts at UVU using strong authentication and race cars driving by. We are humbled by the generous commitment and support we receive from the legislature, community members, and others who work together with us to start over again. From legislators, community all right. Tom and I first started working on this when I had just been made president for breathtaking is the only word I can use to. Let me start over. Is breathtaking a word? Is that two words? It's a compound word. I'd like to explain that grammatically as part of this interview. For me, maybe the greatest aspect of this artwork and this project is that it will be an ultimate engaged learning something. I don't know, I get paid to speak for a living. I'm not sure what to say. I absolutely love it. Why, thank you. I was looking for a little.
Sound speed.
Take 4, pick up.
So congratulations on finally achieving your childhood desire of being signed to an athletic team, even though you were picked last. Thank you for taking away from the stress of finals by cheering up the students by dressing like a Scottish holiday clown, while distributing diabetes canes for a quick sugar rush to make it through the week. Our office is extremely grateful that we were able to quarantine for 9 years, evidence that we can only assume you thought was dancing. Especially this little gem. There are just no words. We all know that you are a good president, but here you discovered what your true calling is. Just kidding. We know what you are really leaving the university to do. With your kind of talent, I guess it's really never too late to start a modeling career. Or maybe a singing career. Since I started writing this letter, I've had this song going through my head over and over. And it just might be your ticket to fame. And perhaps even you could give Christopher Plummer a run for his money. It goes something like this.
Adieu from UVU. So long, farewell, come back real soon and visit. The Northern Center sure will be exquisite. So long, farewell, we'll miss you here in Orem. The roots of knowledge, windows we adore 'em.
On second thought, we've seen how you dance. Music might not be your forte. President and Page, thank you for sharing your family with our UVU family. It is amazing and a bit scary how fast a decade can go. We have enjoyed watching your sweet kiddos grow up. You have sacrificed so much of your time for this institution. I have had the very unique viewpoint of closely watching your efforts. countless nights of extra events, constantly pushing to tell the UVU story and engaging us to strive for greatness and reach for better. Paige, we have been so blessed to have you as our First Lady. You have been a champion of women, an advocate for students, and a builder of many homes. You have had to put up with a lot in your role, a lot. You are an extraordinary example of strength and grace. As the hardest working unpaid employee of UVU, please accept our deepest gratitude and our pledge to continue the work you have done as payment. President, I have watched in awe as no matter how many issues you've had on your plate, you would still go the extra mile to make time for a student who needed to talk or for someone who needed some advice. I expect that most would find the constant need to be present everywhere you go quite exhausting, but you managed it with charm and with kindness and with steady energy. I have watched you wrestle with large, intense issues that impacted our university, the community, and the state, yet put that same effort into thinking about individual staff and faculty members. Your genuine compassion for people is one of my favorite things about you. Your tender care of everyone you interacted with and the impact those actions has been are one of the greatest lessons I have learned from you. I am sure at times your job seemed daunting and your efforts were unnoticed. But I stand here today as a representative of the remarkable employees of UVU to say, we saw you. Your efforts are not only noticed, they were incredibly impactful and inspiring. We wish you and your dear family the absolute best in your new adventure. Go. But continue to be the great storytellers of UVU, send students our way, and we will care for them in true Holland style. We love you, and we will miss you. Before I turn this microphone back over to our dear president, I think it's very important that you know I have called both the commissioner's office and the regents, and they have revoked any authority to fire employees. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Candace. I hardly know what to say, other than to just say thank you to all of you for letting us be part of the UVU family for the last 9 years. I can't believe it's been 9 years. It's gone so fast, but I guess time flies when you're having fun, right? I'll just be brief, but I was thinking, as you can imagine, we've been thinking a lot about the last 9 years lately, and we have so many special memories. And when we first came here, our youngest child was just 3 going on 4. Our oldest son, Jake, was 11. And I remember being a little bit nervous about what it might be like to raise a family on a campus, on a university campus. And as I look back at the experience that we've had raising our children here and making this campus our home, it's been beyond wonderful, truly greater than anything we could have imagined. And most of it's because of people like you that we've been able to interact with and work with and have as friends. And so I just want to tell you how grateful I am and how thankful to be associated with people like you who are such wonderful, hardworking, good people who've been so kind to us, so kind to our family. And just know that part of our hearts will always be here, that we'll always appreciate you, that we're so grateful, that we will always be Wolverines. We'll be wearing a lot of green in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've got, I think, more UVU swag than probably all of you put together. So Raleigh will know all about Utah Valley University. But we love you, we thank you, and this is not goodbye. I don't say goodbyes, I'm not good at goodbyes, so this is just a we'll see you later. Thank you.
I don't care about the governor or the Board of Regents. Someone's going to be fired. With all due respect to Justin, I do not have an address, so be warned. We just wanted to say goodbye, or see you later, as Paige says. Wow. I guess I just want to finish up. The only thing that I thought could be worthwhile saying at a moment like this, not knowing what was coming exactly, but sensing something was up, was to maybe just share with you 9 things I've learned in the last 9 years. These are brief and it's informal. And by the way, I have pictures too. Lesson number 9 is I may sit at the top of the org chart here at UVU, but at home I still remain dead last. So I don't know if we've got that picture that can be called up. There we go. So this is Grace and Danny when we first moved here. A couple of you may have heard this story. That's our dog, or our former dog, Robin. The kids were brilliant when we first moved here because they really wanted a dog, and that was the last thing I wanted. But they played every emotional angle possible, talking about how we had completely ruined their life by making them move, putting them on a campus in a fishbowl, all, on and on. And we just kept putting them off, saying, well, we can't do anything till after the inaugural. And so that seemed to satisfy them until the first week of school. My oldest son learned how to do PowerPoint, and we came home, and he had a PowerPoint presentation on why they should have a dog. I don't know where he gets that from. But it was I have to say, it was very well done. It was very persuasive, again, playing every angle. And then the cleverest line of all was at the end, so how about it, Dad? Let's get a dog after the inog. So I thought, look, genius like that has to be rewarded. We agreed to get a dog. We got this little dog, Robin, cute dog, but just a nightmare. It would not train. It was yappy. It was just kind of wrecking this house that we were in that wasn't our house. And so I just warned the kids fine. I said, look, if there is one more accident, that's a euphemism, one more accident in this house, we have to get rid of this dog. And the kids knew I was serious. And so anyway, we're sitting down one day and we have a guest in the home of all times, and I look down and there is an accident on the floor there. And the kids see me notice it, and I shoot them a look, and they look back and forth, so they know what's coming. Our guests leave, I turn around, I don't even have to say anything, and the kids are crying because they know the dog is gone. And we did get rid of the dog, and we now got a new dog. He's a much better dog, but the point is, of all this, is to say, as we're sitting on the couch and the kids literally are just weeping, finally Danny there, the youngest, gets enough composure to say, Mom, when Dad dies, can we get a new dog? Lesson number 9, dead last at home. Lesson number 8, apparently not all toilet paper is 2-ply. Took me a while, but we've figured that out. Number 7, in meetings, Ray Walker is actually playing Fortnite. Number 6, when it comes to working with people, but working efficiently, I have had no better example than Richard Nixon. It's kind of a style I've mastered here at UVU. Great. Number 5, I've learned that short campus messages get skipped, medium-sized messages get barely perused, and long campus messages apparently suck the soul force out of the entire institution, or so I've been told repeatedly. I've also learned that the most intense airspace in the world is not that above North Korea, but it's that between a camera and Dr. Kyle Reyes. If we could remove that picture now, thank you. Okay. I've learned, number 3, when sending my sweetheart Paige a romantic note by text, it's generally a good idea to send it to her and not Linda Macon. Details are available from Linda. Speaking of Linda, this is, I think, maybe a lesson not just for me, but for all of us. It's taken 9 years to get to the spot where Linda will finally be taller than her boss. And then, finally, for lesson 9. I've learned that every single day on this campus, I get to work with the most extraordinary set of colleagues at every level in this institution, doing the most extraordinary kind of work that I know. And it didn't really take me a full 9 years to figure that out, actually. It's actually why I came. I think some of you have heard me tell this story before about my path to UVU. I grew up in this valley, but I did not know this institution. And when it was first proposed to me, it was something I sort of dismissed. It had kind of grown up right here underneath my nose, so to speak. Now, fortunately, I married this woman. And when I was sort of quick to dismiss it, thinking it's not my thing, I wasn't on an administrative path, I was at a different institution and a different kind of institution doing a very different kind of set of work in many ways. She was the one who instantly said, "That's it. That's what you should do." She's always been smarter than me and wiser than me, and I've been indebted to her from the day I met her and will be forever. But as smart as she was and as wise as she was, I still had a path to follow, and the path was a people path. What turned me on to this institution were not arguments about what it was and where it was going, which I started to see more clearly quite quickly. And I knew that it was going to emerge as the university for this valley. Lots of other great institutions and other things doing lots of great work in the world, but this was going to have to be where the students of this valley came to school and to get educated. I could start to see that. That made sense to me intellectually. But what moved me were the people I started to quietly discover and engage with as I'd hear so-and-so worked at UVU and so-and-so worked at UVU, or they knew someone who worked at UVU and told me about what they were doing and the kind of human being that they were. That was what finally and ultimately convinced me to say, not only am I interested in this job, I really want it. I want to work with people like that, doing that kind of work. We're taking away a lot of treasures from this job, trinkets and tributes and things more than we deserve, but I have to tell you, the thing that I'm going to treasure the most is this file. These are notes, mostly from students, telling me their story, what UVU's meant to them. And the first one came from a student who's an employee, one of the first that I met, Luke Peterson. I'm not going to read all these to you. I may not even read any of them, except to say that Luke became emblematic for me, what I could see in this institution in a very real, concrete, personal kind of way. When he described to me that he grew up in abject poverty, that his mother literally had to sell her own bed one month to put food on the table for a month and to pay the rent, sold the bed she slept on, had to make soup out of ketchup one month to extend the family budget. That's where he came from, but he came to this institution, he got embraced by faculty, he got turned on by ideas, and ended up at Harvard, and then has come back here to Utah Valley University. Well, those stories just started to roll in. Who would not want to be part of that? And so I came, and the stories kept coming, and different stories from different quarters. I remember the wonderful note from Craig Tulene about his daughter, our faculty senate president, about his daughter who came to freshman convocation and was so excited about it that she said, "It's awesome to be here at UVU as it's reaching its awesomeness." I love that phrase. I think about Aaron Smith, who was a graffiti artist in trouble with the law, came in touch with one of our great programs through our inclusive outreach, and instead of being a juvenile delinquent, became a contributing member of our academic world here. Maybe I will just read his story. So captures again another element. He's a foster child. He said, "I had kind foster parents, but the problem was everything I had known to be my family, my original family in my life, had fallen apart. My entire life changed overnight. You see, a very small part of foster children ever go to college, and only 5% of foster children ever finish college. 50% are unemployed a year after being released from foster care. These are actual statistics. I've met so many of these kids who, just like me, just ran into some family difficulty. Few of them are the delinquents that society assumes they may be. In fact, many are smart, kind, willing to make a difference. Unfortunately, they may lack what many have, a true family to call their own, or at least one that cares about them. But during this time of fear and darkness, I found redemption. I started distance education and concurrent enrollment in high school with what was then called Utah Valley State College. After firmly believing there was no hope for any sort of future and succumbing to despair, I found that there was a path. I found the American dream through UVU, that through hard work and determination, I could make things better. I would go to all of my distance education classes with something I hadn't felt in a long time: enthusiasm. It didn't matter how early or how late they were or how difficult they might have been. I was here. Well, I got a story from another foster child just this week. I got a story from Jorgen Hansen, a very different kind of story. one of our whip-smart philosophy students who went off to be trained with an outstanding graduate education to come back here and be a faculty member. These are the stories that make UVU what it is, that drew me to this place 9 years ago and leave me feeling today more so than ever before that for 9 years I've had the best job in the state of Utah. To do what I get to do with these students, with all of you who lead the way, because you're the ones doing it. I'm not doing it. You're the ones in the classroom. You're the ones making this institution work. You're the ones that make it so that people want to invest in this and expand this and showcase it to the world. It's you who has made it happen. And it's been an absolute signal honor to be your colleague for these 9 years, side by side with this dear woman. We will never forget this place. We will never forget you. I can't imagine a more unparalleled professional experience than anyone can have. So on behalf of both of us and our family, we thank you so very, very much. Thank you.